Let's see. I'm waiting for it to tell me. All right, we are recording. All right,
Mhm.
so I am here today with Jason Mills. Jason, if you want to take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us what you're running for.
Sure. So, yeah, my name is Jason Mills. Nice to meet you via Google Meet. I am running for State Senate District 41. This has been something watching very closely since I went to the ballot box in 2016 and saw that there was no Democratic candidate for District 41. Ever since, I've definitely been keeping my ear to the ground beyond just my normal job. My normal job right now is I am a pharmacist for the Medical University of South Carolina. And part of the reason why I'm doing this is because of what I do now. Right now, I spend a lot of time in healthcare policy as it relates to patient care. And that is really what has been the snowball that has gotten me to where I am today. Looking at different things with population health is something that I have a particular passion for. And I define it as three pillars of population health. That's not my definition, that's population health's definition. Um, and those are, of course, healthcare, but education and environment. And those are my three focuses going for the state and for our district. Obviously, I have a healthcare component, but I also have two children that are in the public education system. They are in fourth grade right now. They are twins. And so I not only, do I have a theoretical basis for wanting to improve our standards of education here in the state, but also have a vested interest as I want the best for my children so that they have good opportunities as they. And then, of course, environment, that affects everybody. That is the one common unifier I think most people have within Charleston area, whether it's concerns about laying another pad of concrete, which is going to cause, issues with flooding, or whether it's growth, building, whether we're talking about just the quality of our water, our drinking water, and some of the inequalities just in Charleston County alone. As far as who has clean water and who doesn't. Those are all things that, I've been paying attention to, and I think we can do better as a community, as a district, as a state.
Okay, thank you. All right, so my first question for you today. What is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
That's a very big question. I think.
Start out with the easy ones.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I think that the state of the state is we do not have the appropriate people calling the shot in most cases. I don't think we have enough teacher input as far as things concerning the curriculum, what the academic year looks like, some of our teaching standards. I already mentioned the curriculum, but I think teachers are one of our greatest resources that we have. I definitely had teachers that I would say went beyond that level that we would assume most teachers would take and actually became mentors. And that is something that I still hold near and dear to my heart. I have made it kind of a career of collecting mentors since I have left school. And some of those teachers I would still identify as mentors. But I think the state of the state is we are not paying our educators enough. We're not giving them the enough bandwidth to operate within their profession. Whether that is may have the appropriate runway to do things like plan their course, sit with their teams, make sure that they have a good organized approach to what their academic year is going to look like or what needs to change throughout the academic year. I think they need to have the opportunity to flex as appropriate. And then, of course, testing, but that's kind of a whole different topic.
So kind of following up with
I think the state of South Carolina education. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, kind of following up with that, what steps would you take to improve public education?
So there are multiple steps. I think I have a personal focus towards improving our math curriculum, and that is something that I have a very vested interest towards because I think math has chosen one of two pathways within our students, and this goes back to when I was in school to when my parents were in school. People, a child either hated math, was good at math. And so they kind of just had this divergence as to where they wanted to go. And I think that if we can start to improve with a focus on math at first and then to other topics that are appropriate, I think that the curriculum needs to be a better reflection of what the job market actually looks like and what we actually need. I think we need some massive curriculum adjustments so that we can focus on, one of my big things is data fluency. And that kind of dovetails in with a lot of the math curriculum that I've been talking about is we're still teaching a lot of what was taught back in the 50s with, I believe some folks have referred to it, at least in the high school years, as the geometry, algebra, geometry, and then algebra again. And yet, when you look at other developed nations that are teaching their curricula, they have completely changed their models. And so I think we should focus more on updating our curriculum. We should update what we pay our teachers and make sure that that is on a good long scale. We should focus on making sure that we have the appropriate finances being sent to the across the public education throughout South Carolina. We need to make sure that the dollars that are brought in through tax revenue are appropriately allocated equally across those districts.
You keep doing a really great job of segueing into my next questions unintentionally. So, if you were elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
Well, I do think it is interesting. According to, an Education Week report, and this is from the 2018 Education Week report, I thought it was interesting, and it actually kind of dovetails to my argument as far as can be dangerous if you don't understand it. So in the 2018 report, one of the things that they talked about was, South Carolina spends 3.9% of its tax revenue on education. Now that's actually higher than the United States average of 3.3%. Now these are 2018 numbers, but I can't imagine they've strayed too far. But if you actually dig down deeper, that sounds great and that sounds like a great byline. But when you actually dig down into it, you realize that South Carolina actually receives less tax revenue on average than most of the other states. And so while 3.9% sounds great and that it's greater than 3.3, it's actually less per pupil on average than the rest of the United States. So I think that we need to focus on what we want to actually invest into our educators, into our education systems, and to our teachers, or teaching staff, that is, principals, support staff, etc. I think that needs to be approached cautiously, be creative, because I know people are very sensitive to increasing the T word. And that is not something that I would be going in and saying we need to increase taxes. I think we need to be smart with the taxes that we're bringing in. I think we need a serious reroute. Something that I've actually been talking about actually has to deal with the Sunday liquor sales. I think that if South Carolina opens up Sunday liquor sales, I say we take those taxes that are attributed to those Sunday sales and we actually funnel those 100% into our education stream. That's it's something relatively easy. It's something relatively quick that we can do. And seeing as how that bill is being worked on, I think it's something that we would have an opportunity to work in.
Okay, thank you. Following up with that, what do you believe is the top issue surrounding public education in South Carolina?
Oh, well, there's a lot. Again, as a parent, I have seen the what I would say is over testing. I think the fact that South Carolina is over testing compared to what the feds are mandating is of particular interest, given that our performance is actually less than average across the board. Um, I think that we need to, I think the biggest issue is teachers don't have enough say in what is going on in their classrooms, whether you're talking about making changes to who participates in the EOC, whether you're talking about making it so that teachers have more dedicated work days to themselves. Are professionals. They should have the opportunity to decide what they're going to do with their time and how that's going to affect the kids in the classroom, rather than having it, micromanaged down to them from people who have limited to no education background. So my personal opinion is we don't have teachers in the driver's seat enough, and I think that's the biggest problem. Of course, now that kind of goes into incentive, right? So how do you incentivize the teachers to stay in their roles and stay in the classroom? And that kind of goes back to a little bit of the pay. But I'm also respectful enough of teachers to know that it's not just the paycheck. It's just to make sure that their environment that they're operating and working in is not toxic, so that it's a good environment for everybody, the teachers, the staff, and the kids.
Okay, my last question for you. Considering how well educators continue to provide instruction after the coronavirus pandemic canceled state testing and assessments, what are your opinions about accountability measures today?
Yeah, it's been very hard. I've both my wife and we've still been working through this just horrible set of circumstances, and it's been a challenge even just for us at home, holding our kids accountable. Whether we're just trying to figure out what they actually got. Sometimes there is some ambiguity as to what they were supposed to have accomplished that day or for the week. Whether or not the teachers have actually gotten to see it, and whether or not it was graded. There was a phone call that we had with my kids' teachers late last week. And I got to say that I know that they're doing the best that they can. And I love my kids' teachers. I think they're doing a great job. It's just going to be hard. I think when you're talking about making sure that the kids are actually learning, and I don't think you need a test to determine whether or not the kids are learning. I think that they should be able to, have enough runway to demonstrate their mastery, whether that's through, some of the online tests that I see them taking, whether that is, maybe that's something that we have to the next academic year. I don't want to go too far astray, but I'm actually a big proponent of all year academic calendar. I think that's something that South Carolina should take a long, hard look in. If we had a full academic year, I think we would have had a little bit more opportunity to flex some of this time into some of those breaks and be able to pull a little bit more into the summer months. But no one has a crystal ball, so I don't know if that would actually have panned out or not. But I think it's going to be a challenge. But at the end of the day, you still have to trust the professionals, and the teachers are the ones that are on the front lines. They're the ones that are seeing the kids, looking at the kids' work. You really have to trust, what their assessment is of the child, and we need to give them enough backing to do that.
Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add? Any other comments? That's all the questions that I have for you.
Sure. No. It's the unfortunate part about a video recording is there is as much as you've been wonderful to interact with, we don't have that opportunity to kind of have that forum. I've been out there. I have teachers in the family. We've had some discussions as far as me running for office and some of the things they would like to see. Obviously, I know some teachers out in the community, and I would really like to gain their input. I think teachers are the ones we need to be listening to. I think we have a lot of good people in the state that have good intentions. But if you don't have boots on the ground, actually feeding and filtering that information up, or have the opportunity to actually make change at the highest level, I, I don't think we're going to end up being where we need to be. And so, my only thing is, I hope at some point in the future we have an opportunity to engage face to face with all the social responsible, distancing and masks and gloves. That's fine, but I think there's an opportunity to engage with our educators and hear what they have to say, and give them an opportunity to ask me any questions. So if anyone does want to reach out to me after listening to this and seeing this, I have multiple venues. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's the Mills for SC Senate. On Twitter, that's the number 4. For Facebook and Instagram, that's 4FOR. And then we also have our website, millsforscsenate.com. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, if you wished I wasn't wearing a hat during this, if you were interested in how long ago it was I got my shirt, you can ask me all those things. But yeah, feel free to engage. I love questions. Let's do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording.